Yep, I can hear the sound.
Okay, good.
We might need to turn the volume up again because I think sometimes we turn the volume down for regular stuff and then people come by. They say we're a little too quiet. I wonder who is here. There is 50% people selecting the corn maze, so there must be someone else here.
Yes, what's the other one?
Let's
Ah,
see.
pumpkin
Yeah,
carving.
pumpkin carving. We're going to be doing live chat here, and I'm going to see if there are any participants. Welcome, folks. Welcome to our live stream, our August edition of the live stream. I hope you can hear us all right. I hope you're having a great August, what's left of it. And we're about to be at the end of it. Ooh, we have even more people in here selecting even more options. Pumpkin carving is winning at 67%, with corn mazes coming in close behind. I don't want to end poll. I almost ended the poll.
That would have been bad.
Hello, hi from Maine, Mary. Welcome, welcome. We've got ourselves a great live stream today. Hi, Army Soldier Lady. Welcome. Oh, you need advice? What advice do you need? And then we'll do some live advice here, and as long as it doesn't involve illegal or illicit topics, I think we'll be fine. Can everyone hear us all right, though? Just to make sure, I want to make sure that our audio is fine. I think we have a bit of a lag today, so it might be a second before you hear me. How not to become a Reddit story.
Oh.
Well, okay. The way I would advise you to not become a Reddit story is uh don't do something so terrible and horrendous that it catches people's attention, and then don't brag about it. That's how you not become a Reddit story.
You just live kind of like if you have like a happy relationships with the people in your life, you can avoid becoming a Reddit story because we don't get a lot of happy stories of like, yeah, everything's just going fine. My partner's great. The kids are fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. You're slow yourself today? Well, that's all right because I think it's a slow kind of Friday.
Yeah.
Oops, I picked the wrong story first here. You know, you've got a sneak peek of what the last story is. So let's get started. Our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling Teenage Boys to Stop? I'm a 22-year-old male and I went on a trip to a theme park with my church's youth group yesterday. I'm one of the chaperones, and the kids are mostly teenagers, 13 to 16 years old. For the most part, they're good kids, but they can be a bit rowdy, especially when they're in a big group. Well, while myself and the 5 or 6 boys were waiting in line for one of the rides, there was a woman standing in front of us who looked to be around my age, her early 20s. She was wearing a tank top with shorts, and not even booty shorts, mid-length, nothing outrageous, kind of the typical summer clothes that you would see at a mall clothing store. However, some of the boys in our group decided that she wasn't dressed modestly enough. Women in our church typically wear ankle-length skirts and sleeves to the elbow. They started clapping loudly in her ears, making comments about how she should cover up, and even going as far as lightly touching her arm and shoulder to get her attention. One even grabbed her hips. She was visibly uncomfortable, but seemed too shocked or scared to say anything. I watched this go on for about a minute, expecting them to stop on their own, but they didn't. It was getting worse, and I felt awful for not stepping in sooner. I finally snapped at them and I told them to stop harassing her. I didn't yell, but I was firm and clear. They immediately looked shocked and embarrassed. Thankfully, they did stop. Later, one of the chaperones pulled me aside and told me that I shouldn't have used that kind of language in front of the kids, saying that it was inappropriate and not setting a good example. He said that I should have found a gentler way to correct them, and that I overreacted. He also reminded me that using swear words is sinful. I don't usually use language like that, especially around kids, but in the moment I was more concerned with getting them to stop harassing this woman. Now I'm second guessing myself. Maybe I could have handled it better, but I also feel like what they were doing was way out of line and needed to be shut down immediately. Alright, folks, what do you think of this one?
I mean, I don't think Opie's a jerk for what he said, but I think he should have stepped in sooner. Like, it should never have gotten to the point of the boys touching this woman and
Yeah.
invading her personal space.
Yeah.
You know, people are allowed to have their own religious beliefs. This woman is not part of their church. And, like, even if she was, it wouldn't be cool. But, like, this is some random person at a theme park.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to dictate how other people dress.
Yeah. Hi, Tuesday. I just want to interject that real quick. Yeah, I think that this is one of those situations where OP should have reacted sooner. I think they should have. They underreacted, if anything.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is, like, if Opie had gotten, well, and if Opie had just stepped in immediately and, like, put a stop to it, maybe he wouldn't have had to yell at them. Just, like, step in and be like, hey, guys, it's not okay. We're not going to harass this woman.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are lucky that they didn't get pepper sprayed, because if I had been that woman, I would have pulled out mace and sprayed them, you know? Tased them. I mean, I think that would have been justified in this particular situation. I would have been afraid if I had been her. These people, like, clapping at me, yelling at me, harassing me.
Grabbing
her
me.
Hips. Yeah, the moment they touched me, I would have been pepper spraying them so fast. Oh, and hi, Susums. Welcome. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's really where I stand on this one. I just wish that they, well, I think also this other person here, the other person in the church is really missing the bigger picture.
Well, and why didn't that other, like, if that other person could hear what OP said, they were presumably close enough to see what was going on, and why didn't they step in and correct the boys?
Yeah, so I really feel like this other person really missed the mark as well, and I mean, I just think that this is not a good situation at all.
And not a good lesson that, like, swearing is worse than harassing and groping people.
Yeah. But what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says if Opie had stepped in at the very first, the language wouldn't have been necessary, and the touching should never have occurred. And Army Soldiers Lady says, oh my, as someone who has spent years in church, none of my youth group peers would have ever done that. These kids are out of control. And Mary says, not a great ad for their church.
No, it really is not. It really is not. Something along the lines of, if your hands cause you to sin, then cut them off.
Yeah, if your right eye causes thee to stumble, pluck it out, type of things.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is, like, it literally is in the Bible. Like, yeah, you're responsible for your own behaviors.
Yeah.
And then here are these, kids being very bad.
They should have taken them out of line, dragged them back to the van for wherever, and just started reading them Bible lessons or something like that, because clearly they have not got the message. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Joking About My Ex-Husband's New Wife? Okay, so I'm a 36-year-old female, and I've been divorced from my ex-husband, Dave, a 38-year-old male, for about 3 years now. We share custody of our 8-year-old daughter, Lily, so I see him regularly. Recently, Dave got married to this girl, Sarah, a 26-year-old female. Now, let me give you the rundown. Sarah is completely opposite of me. She's this young, overly sweet type who seems to be stuck in the 1950s. I'm not even exaggerating. She's always wearing these old-fashioned vintage dresses, with her hair done up, like she's straight out of a classic movie. Apparently, she's obsessed with all that retro stuff and even has decorated the whole house in that style. It's cute, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. She also works at some kind of museum. Dave always makes a big deal about how accomplished she is, and she's so brilliant. But let's be real, it's not like she's curing cancer. She's just babysitting an exhibit. Meanwhile, I'm out there balancing a real job and raising our daughter. Anyways, last week, Lily was with her dad, and when she came back, we couldn't stop talking about this princess tea party that Sarah had thrown her. She was all excited about the vintage teacups, the themed dresses, and how pretty and fun it all was. It was clear that she had a great time, but honestly, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. It just sounded so vapid. So I made a few jokes about it when I was talking to my friends, and I said something along the lines of, I guess Dave found himself a little 1950s housewife replacement. All she's missing is the pearls and a vacuum cleaner. My friends laughed, so I thought it was harmless. But Lily overheard me and got really upset, saying that she loves Sarah and the tea party was the best day ever. She even said that I was being mean. I tried to explain that I wasn't being serious, but she wouldn't listen and she ran to her room. Dave called me later, furious, saying that Lily told him everything and that I'm being petty and cruel for making fun of Sarah. He said that Sarah goes out of her way to make Lily feel special and that I should be grateful, not jealous. He's actually using the word jealous, which is ridiculous. Me? Jealous? Why would I be jealous of a woman like this? I just think that it's weird that he's with someone so different than me. Because he's always dated real professionals or people on their way to a real career, and I can't help but laugh at the whole situation. Does this make me a jerk? Alright, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, OP, you sound like a major jerk and like you're jealous and insecure. I mean, first of all, she has a real job working in a museum. I don't know what she does specifically, but
Yeah.
that's a real job. We need museums. And OP, for the record, is not out there curing cancer either. She has some kind of office job, I think like accountant or something like that.
Yeah.
So to be like, well, she's not doing that. You're not doing that either, OP. Like, not everyone's job has to have like the grandest impact ever to be meaningful. The world is richer with the arts in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a lot of this here. I think that OP is their whole language is dripping with disdain towards a person who's just different from them, right?
Right. Well, and there's nothing wrong with dressing vintage either.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line in the retro community, vintage fashion, not vintage values. You can like the like pinup style from the 1940s and 50s and still be a professional and still hold modern values and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So reducing her down to a stereotype based on her aesthetic is not a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she just likes a certain aesthetic, and that's the way she dresses, and you really can't blame somebody for enjoying an aesthetic that they like. And I think that OP is being incredibly shallow. It doesn't even seem like she really knows this person. She just is using her as a punching bag.
Right. Well, and I get the feeling that she's upset that this other woman is having fun time with the daughter and she
Mm-hmm.
has to do the hard parenting, but I mean, it's also kind of your responsibility as the parent. Like, yeah, she's a step parent now, but she doesn't have the same role in her life that OP does.
Yeah. But what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, I love the description of the retro girlfriend. OP sounds like a drag. Susum says, I would like to meet the new wife, but I can easily see why OP's marriage failed. Tuesday says, OP just sounds jealous to me. Mary says, OMG, she made nasty comments in front of their daughter. So much the jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And then Susum says, when your kid calls you out, you're 100% are the jerk. And then Army Soldiers Lady says, wow, what a horrible person. Your kid is better than you, OP. How embarrassing.
Yeah. Really not great. Not a good look on her. Hopefully OP can find some way of being less jealous. Speaking of being jealous, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she's not marrying a real person? And OP is the jealous one here, and you'll see why.
I don't know if I'd say that.
My 30-year-old female sister Jessica is getting married in a few weeks, and I, a 28-year-old male, am completely outraged. This isn't just any wedding, it's a wedding to her virtual boyfriend, who she met on a gaming app. Yes, you read that right. She's honestly going through a wedding with an animated avatar that she controls. Apparently, he understands her better than anyone could, and makes her feel special in ways that real people can't. She's been obsessed with this game for the past year, and I've tried to be supportive, but it's just too far. Who marries a digital character? She's throwing an entire wedding with decorations, a cake, and invitations. She wants me to be the best man, to a computer-generated character. I've told her that I can't support her delusions, and that this is ridiculous. I've offered to take her to counseling to help her face reality, but she flipped out. She's saying that I'm some kind of monster for not accepting her love. There are tons of people in her life who think that this is a terrible idea, but I'm the one who's being singled out as a villain. She's been crying for weeks, telling everyone that I'm an awful brother, and now my family is pressuring me to attend to keep the peace. I just can't lower myself to that level. Am I the jerk for standing my ground and refusing to attend this farce? Throw anything at me, I am the bad guy for protecting my sister from this ridiculous situation. Alright, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think OP is in the wrong for being concerned, and I would recommend potentially talking to a counselor to find out what to do in this sort of situation. because if he thinks that, like, I don't know what exactly is going on with her. This isn't customary behavior to want to have a wedding with a fictional character or imaginary character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so if he thinks she is actually struggling psychologically, I know he has suggested therapy for her and she's not willing to go, but maybe he can talk to someone and figure out how to be a support system to her in this time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it would be a really good idea for OP to talk to a professional to find out what the best course of action here is. Because, I mean, I've heard that. I've heard some people say things along the lines of, "Oh, you shouldn't feed into people's delusions,"
Mm-hmm.
but from what I understand, that's actually not necessarily true. Like, you don't necessarily want to tell people, in a way that's going to be harmful to them,
Yeah,
right?
like you don't want to be confrontational, but you also don't want to acknowledge things that aren't true. And so it's like it's a very fine balance
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand. I'm not an expert in this, but it's a very thorny situation to navigate.
Yeah, and so if this is a fake person, because I'm not entirely clear the way that OP has written this, whether or not this is not a real person or
Oh no,
not.
it's an avatar that she controls.
Yeah, well, but I mean, if she's playing a multiplayer game and he doesn't realize it, is all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't get that vibe from the story,
Yeah,
but
but if this isn't not a real person, if it's a computer AI or something to that effect, then I think the sister is missing something in her life that she feels like she's getting out of this video game,
mm-hmm.
and that maybe it's time to start digging into why she feels lonely and isolated and how OP can help her, through some of these complicated feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But what does the crowd have to say? The peanut gallery.
So Susam's asked if she's marrying a character or is there a human talking to OP, but to be fair, I wouldn't go to that kind of wedding too. Mary says, is this a rent-a-venue catering kind of wedding? I would see if she could throw a virtual wedding and proceed with counseling suggestions from there. And Tuesday says, there's a woman married to the Eiffel Tower being married to a virtual guy. Isn't that weird by comparison? I can see why he doesn't want to be there, but I think she should have the ceremony if that helps her.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes going through steps like this can actually help people, like, cope with whatever they're dealing with or going through the situation. So I don't know.
Well, and I mean, we put so much pressure on weddings. Like, sometimes people just want an excuse to throw an
Mm-hmm.
extravagant party. And, like, I mean, I joke about wanting to get married again, not because I want to get married again, but just because I want, like, an excuse to wear a ball gown, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of extravagance, our next letter is titled, "Am I a jerk for not wanting to go to my cousin's wedding after she almost ruined my marriage?" Extravagance in a very extravagant way. So, this has been eating me up for a while, and I really need some outside perspective on whether I'm in the wrong here. A few months ago, I met my cousin Jess, not her real name, pulled something that nearly destroyed my marriage. Jess and I used to be super close, like almost sisters. But things have been weird ever since I got married to my husband Tom. For some reason, she never really liked Tom, even though he was always super kind and respectful of her. Anyways, out of nowhere, Jess decided to tell Tom that I had been cheating on him with some guy that I used to know in college. She told them this elaborate story about how we were seeing each other behind his back, meeting up after work, and all of this stuff that was 100% made up. Tom confronted me, and we had the biggest fight of our marriage. He was devastated, and honestly, I was too, because I had no idea where this was coming from. We nearly separated over this, but luckily, after a lot of talks, tears, and some detective work, Tom finally believed me, and we managed to work things out. Turns out, Jess was just jealous of my relationship and wanted to stir things up for whatever reason. She never admitted to it, but she got caught in so many lies, and it was pretty obvious what her intentions were. Now Jess is getting married in a couple of months, and I've been invited to the wedding. My family is pressuring me to go because family is family, and you can't hold a grudge forever. But honestly, I don't want to see her, let alone celebrate her big day after what she did. Every time I think about it, I just get angry all over again. I know weddings are supposed to be happy occasions, but I don't think that I can fake a smile and pretend that everything is okay. Am I the jerk for not wanting to go, or should I just get over it and attend to keep the peace? Alright, folks, what do you think of this one?
No, not the jerk. You do not have to go to the wedding of someone who tried to sabotage your marriage just for kicks. You know? I mean, who tried to sabotage her marriage, period. But
Mm-hmm.
like, it seems like she was just either jealous that OP was in a happy relationship and wanted to destroy that. Like the kind of person who wants to take away someone else's happiness just because it exists and they don't have it is not a good person to associate with anyway.
Yeah, well, it sounds like Jess is just bitter and sallow. Like, if she is this angry about seeing people in a happy, committed relationship, then I think she has a lot of inward reflection to do, and potentially she should seek therapy because this is not a normal reaction to seeing a happy, well adjusted couple. So, what is wrong? Is there something inside of her relationship that's making her resent her relationship? And is it making her want to take this out on other people, right? Because it sounds like she looks at OP's relationship and sees how good it is, and maybe she looks at her relationship and sees that it's not so great.
Right. And if that's the case, then she shouldn't be getting married. But of
Yeah.
course, that's her choice and not anyone else's. But yeah, no, definitely OP doesn't need to go. And I don't understand why the family is pressuring OP so much.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's time to have some hard conversations and maybe put some of them in timeout for a while if they're going to continue to support her despite everything she's done and try and pressure you to put a smile on your face.
Yeah, but yeah, I really think that Jess and her fiance need to go into couples therapy and talk about some things because I don't know that Jess is really all that happy. It doesn't sound like it. But let me know. Oh wait, yeah. Let's see what other people have to say about this. I got into like the rhythm here. I'm like, oh wait, I'm not actually recording, am I?
You're recording in a different way. Mary says, spreading lies like this, how did Just think that was going to play out? I would so avoid any contact. Susum says OP is 100% justified to stay out of her wedding. Doesn't sound that OP is petty, but she could make a huge scene to ruin the wedding, and I wouldn't think that she's a jerk. Tuesday says, Jess sucks so much. How is ruining a marriage fun? What if OP got divorced over it and then it was revealed to be false? Would more people be on OP's side, or is Jess still somehow the favorite? And Mary says, I would point blank ask anyone objecting if they would continue contact with someone spreading actionable lies about them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. And sometimes that does help when you're like, well, if she did this to your marriage, would you still want to go to her wedding?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think framing it like that would be a really good way to potentially get some people to see why OP is upset. Speaking of framing, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for allowing my wife to join the guys in my family when the women are cooking? My wife is a 25-year-old female and I'm a 27-year-old male, and we've been married for 6 months together and we've been together for 7 years. My wife isn't close to her family, it's a long story, and I had a pretty decent relationship with mine, so when she graduated a year ago and we were ready to settle down, she wanted us to be near my family. They had met up and things were okay, or so it seemed. One thing that I should mention is that my family are more traditional, the women and the men, in the extended family mostly. My great grandma always believed that during family time, women do the cooking and men should do their own thing, play outside, watch a game, or something like that. My brothers and I know how to cook only because of my dad, who married into the family with the traditional views and was not raised that way and knows how to cook. He was able to get us competent as well. I'm pretty good, not as good as someone who was taught more earlier, but the traditional views were always weird to me and not something that I believed in ever. It was something I was upfront with my wife about when we were only dating. My wife is an amazing cook. I will sing her praises every chance that I get. She makes amazing food. She was super popular with her roommates and later our roommates in college when she agreed to take on the cooking duty. We both cook at home, but I love every night that she cooks. The women in my family are jealous of this. Ever since we moved closer, she was expected to join them in the kitchen. Her cooking got compliments from the family. The men didn't always realize it was her, and they would say that they loved the changes made to the dish. As a direct result, the female members of the family were being jerks to my wife and making comments about her not doing enough and being lazy, but then trying to take over. My wife really wanted to be close to them, so she tried hard. But I hated seeing it, and my dad couldn't go through with mom to get through to her mom, to my mom. So I told her that she should step out of the kitchen and join us guys. She was hesitant to do so, but had fun the first time, and she fit right in, and this made the women mad in the family, who told me that I should be insisting that she joins them like she is supposed to. They said that I should not be allow her to skip cooking duty. I told them that I encouraged her to stay with us since they were being so unfair to her. I told them that we could always skip seeing them if this would make them happier. My wife feels bad. My dad joined in with me, telling her that the women are just being too hard on her and that she doesn't deserve to be treated the way that they were treating her. We talked about not attending, and I enjoy being with family less, but she hopes that it'll get better soon. My mom confronted me alone again and told me that I was wrong to allow this. I told my mom that I love my wife and I do not want her mistreated and excluded by my family. She said that I'm not doing her any favors by hiding her from them. I told her that they could try to be nicer. She said that I'm making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. And honestly, I would say no more family dinners until the women in OP's family can stop being horrible monsters. Or maybe just do dinners with OP's dad, since he
Mm-hmm.
seems like the only one there who's chill. Like this it's so cruel to like be jealous and then start bullying her just because she's a good cook.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these people are really insecure and really petty, and that's really what this boils down to.
And like so that she should just live with this hazing because they're insecure. It's like no, she should not have to put up with this. No, I mean, first of all, I feel like this tradition needs a shake up anyway, and there's no reason
Mm-hmm.
Opie and his dad can't join the women in the kitchen and like switch things up. So if you were to continue going there, I'd recommend potentially Opie and the dad stepping in the kitchen so they can keep an eye on the other women and make sure they don't bully Opie's wife.
And that might be a way of going about it, and it's like joining the women in the kitchen. Maybe have a on again, off again
Like
type
a
of schedule or
rotation.
rotation where they'll go in every other time or something like that. With the wife, and that way it kind of evens things out and makes things fair, and then they can't like bully harass the wife.
Yeah, but in general, their attitude right here is really bad. And like, I also don't like the why would you let your wife do this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's her own person. Like, I mean, I understand OP encouraged her, and like, I think that's the important thing is to
Mm-hmm.
encourage her and support her not to be harassed. But like, they're acting like OP should be putting her in her place, and that's really gross.
Yeah.
Like, they're equal partners.
Yeah. But what do the comments have to say?
Susam says, in the moment someone tries to force this type of family model on others, it becomes sexist, not tradition. Uh, and then Mary says, my inclination would be to visit family on a one-on-one basis and celebrate holidays at Rick's Corral.
Yeah. So then, yeah, I guess we'll move right along then. So our next letter, speaking of stuff, I don't remember where I was going with my line of reasoning there. Our next letter is titled, I'm a 33-year-old female and I was manipulated by my ex-boyfriend, a 33-year-old female, so my husband, a 35-year-old male, and I could be together. Years later, she wants to tell him, how do I go about this? Speaking of deception,
Mm.
lies, theft, who knows what else? Drama. Throwaway, since my actual profile has identifying info on it. I am a 33-year-old female and my husband is a 34-year-old male, and we've been together for almost 10 years, married for almost 8, and we have 4 kids. Prior to me being with her, he was my best friend. Prior to being with me, he was my best friend. My best friend and I.
He was with my best
Oh,
friend.
he was with my best friend. Thank you. I apparently can't read today. My best friend and I met him on a night out 11 years ago. I have always been very shy and introverted, but I was attracted to him, but had no idea what to do about it, and my best friend and him wound up sleeping together that night and became a couple soon after that. In my heart, I knew that I would be a much better girlfriend to him. She always complained about him being busy when he was balancing work with an over 40-hour-a-week job, doing graduate degrees, and being with her at the same time, rather than being a supportive and caring girlfriend. I wanted to be loved and treated the way that he treated my best friend, and my crush on him grew and grew until I couldn't stand the sight of them together. I made a plan to set up a situation where my best friend cheated, which led to them breaking up and the end of our friendship when she blamed me for the end of the relationship. I became a regular at his favorite cafe, hoping to see him after we bumped into each other a few times, and he initiated some conversation with me. We got coffee together, we went on some walks, an amusement park date, and more until he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I've been by his side ever since. Rather than being an obstacle in his way like my ex BFF, I have given him every ounce of my being to being the most loving and supportive partner to him, and he has been the best husband and treated me so much love, and he absolutely adores me. We have grown into a beautiful family with 4 kids, and I couldn't be happier and more fulfilled with the life that we have. I know that I will probably be called manipulative for this, but I'm not. I did one manipulative thing to end up and build a real life with a man that I fell in love with. It's simply a case of using the wrong method to get the right answer. Until a few days ago, I hadn't heard from my ex BFF in a long time. She sent me a message saying that I ruined her life and that she hates me for taking away her man and that she waited a long time to get her payback and she was going to tell my husband everything soon. My husband has blocked her on everything, so she would somehow have to tell him in person. I don't want my husband to know. I know that it was morally wrong, but if I hadn't done it, we would have never had a life like this together. Also, it was her decision to cheat. I didn't force her to do it. It was her decision. If she truly, if she didn't want to truly, if she didn't want to truly love and appreciate him, someone else would, and it just so happened that it was me. I see what they're saying. Despite this, I'm afraid that the possibility of my husband seeing this would see me in a different light, and he would know the truth. Our anniversary and his birthday are also both coming up, and I'm afraid that she somehow is going to ruin our 10th anniversary of being together or crash the surprise birthday party that I'm throwing for my husband. How do I go about this? Edit. A lot of comments are asking me how I manipulated her into cheating. I knew one of her ex-friends with benefits, and I had a thing for her, who had a thing for her, and I dragged her to a party where I knew the ex-friend with benefits would be at, and I lied to him that she was still had a thing for him. He talked to her a bit, and she was really receptive and eventually slept with him that night. Before they slept together, she asked me not to tell my husband, and I agreed just so that she would go through it, and I told my husband the next day, which is how he found out. There was some amount of alcohol involved, but she admitted that she wasn't drunk and that it was consensual. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I think Opie should just come clean and let her husband make his own decisions from there. Granted, like, certainly she didn't make the friend cheat. The friend actively chose to
Mm-hmm.
cheat, you know. But what Opie did was manipulate a situation, and like, it's just not a cool way to handle it. She could have told him at any point in time that the friend disses him behind his back or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she could have waited for things to take their course because most young relationships don't last anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's really odd that she is blaming OP for wrecking their relationship, right? And I mean, sure, OP did put into motion the plans here. And I mean, like, OP helped to tempt her,
Mm-hmm.
but OP didn't force her to sleep with this person, and OP, didn't, I guess, make her decisions for her. She made those decisions. Now, I don't agree with the methods that OP used.
No, I mean, you shouldn't manipulate people in that way. Like, I mean, if she was gonna cheat, like, it was probably gonna happen anyway,
Yeah.
but, like, better to let it happen on its own than to intentionally set up a situation to make it happen.
Yeah. So I certainly understand the frustration that the ex BFF has, but she made her own decisions in
Mm-hmm.
life, and she was young and she made a poor decision, and now in the future maybe she will know how to treat and respect a partner as opposed to cheating on them, right? And I don't think like she should be cast into the flames or anything like that. People make mistakes and people do things that are, sometimes hurtful, and there are consequences to those actions, right? But as for OP, OP has also made a decision, and it's time for her to face the consequences of that decision.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And so she needs to be honest and open with her husband and explain the situation.
Yeah, well, if you think the means of what an action you did would cast you in a bad light and change the state of your relationship, maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Yeah.
And like, it may be that he doesn't even care that it's so long ago, but if it matters to him, and it makes him see OP in a different light, then that's the consequences for doing what she did.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that OP does owe her husband a conversation.
So Mary says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them cheat. Tuesday says, everyone's in the wrong except her husband. He just sounds like a pawn in their game.
Yeah.
Susan says, Opie doesn't know if her husband is as happy as she is, but BFF cheated herself. Both of these ladies are jerks. An Army Soldiers lady says, I bet the husband would act like mine, struggle to forgive me. Opie manipulated the circumstances, and that is a reflection of her character. Well, and that is the question that's going to be answered. Opie's like, well, I'm not a manipulative person.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the kind of door it opens, is if you do something that manipulative, it's going to leave questions.
Yeah. Speaking of manipulation, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not forcing my fiance to wear my father's late wife's wedding dress? My father lost his first wife, I'm going to call her Mia, more than 30 years ago. It was a very long and complicated situation, but to summarize it, my mother, in the second on his heart.
It's the second on his heart.
Oh, is okay. My mother is the second one on his heart because he's always said that he has had that his love of his life was Mia, and that he always made it clear. My dad still wears his wedding ring with Mia on one hand, and my mom bakes a cake for her on her birthday. My mom leaves my dad alone when his anniversary with Mia is, and when he's feeling down. There are so many photos of Mia in the house. There are even photos of her in their room because my father never wanted to change them, etc. As crazy as it may seem, this kind of thing is very normal within couples of this type, and they see that as something normal and maybe even sweet, even if it's not. For example, making a cake every Mia's birthday was the idea of another woman who is also married to a widower that does the same thing. I've been raised that way and kind of having two mothers. Even if it wasn't always like that, it wasn't healthy. It wasn't a healthy childhood, but luckily I have gone to therapy to work on all of the issues that this has caused. My mother has always said that my mother has always said that he gives her the space that she deserves and feels equally loved, like he loves his first wife. My siblings and I don't see it that way because our mother deserves better, but if she's happy, we will not ruin their happiness, so we never talk about it. Now, coming to the problem. I am going to marry my fiance. Her mother never had a wedding ceremony, so she doesn't have a wedding dress to inherit. So my girlfriend excitedly told me that she thinks that it would be cute to ask my mother if she can use her dress. My mom has mentioned this in the past, and I don't have any sisters, so I think that it would be a nice idea. Anyways, I talked to my mom about lending her her dress and her dress to my fiance, and she got excited and said yes. My mother had spoken several times about wanting to have a daughter wear her dress, and she was very excited when my fiance asked her to wear it. She even tried it on, and the conversation was closed. Now, almost a month after we talked about it, my mom has asked my fiance if it would be nice to wear Mia's dress instead. My fiance told her no. She feels a little better connection with my mother and not Mia. She doesn't even know Mia. After that, my mother has been asking me to try to convince my fiance to wear Mia's dress. My father wanted me to put up the typical decoration to commemorate the deceased, but I told him that I won't do that. So my mother now wants my fiance to wear Mia's dress to commemorate her, and for her to be present too, because she was someone that was really special. Again, I never met her. I don't know who she was. My fiance told me that Mia is a total stranger to her. My fiance wants my mother's dress. She wants to give her a special place at the wedding since my mother sees her as a daughter and she as a second mother and wants to have a special moment. I told my mother that I don't intend to do that. It even seems gloomy and weird to me, but I have been raised around Mia's memory that sometimes I don't even understand if I'm exaggerating or not. Am I the jerk? Being raised in this kind of way sometimes makes me feel confused about what is normal and not in a family. It would be normal to ask my fiance to wear. Uh, it would be normal to ask my fiance to wear Mia's dress in my family dynamic, but I don't know what someone who was raised normally would do, and if I'm a bad person for not wanting to do it. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, no, I don't think Opie's in the wrong, and it should be the bride's choice on her wedding day what she wears. No one
Yeah.
should pressure her into wearing something else. Now, if the mom decides that she's no longer comfortable offering her dress, that's fine, and the fiance can find her own dress,
Yeah.
but they shouldn't try foisting this other dress on her. Opie's fiance has no connection to Mia, and the dad needs to step back and accept that the love of his life is not the same, like, who means so much to him doesn't mean the same to everyone else. And he's actually caused a lot of trauma with this insistence that she always be treated like equal to the mom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is. I mean, I understand that he still has feelings for this person, and that's not something to like belittle or make fun of or anything like that. But he needs to also give people the time and space to make their own relationships, and Mia isn't part of their lives in the same way. Like, I understand that he has a lot of feelings here, but he can't expect everyone else to feel the same way that he does. And so I really think that they should have gone to family counseling a long time ago if they
Mm-hmm.
haven't, right? This seems like a situation where there were some things that were missed that needed to be done at some point in time. Some
Yeah.
very clear boundaries, and I feel bad that the OP's mom is getting put into the corner like this.
Right. I mean, I feel like unfortunately Opie's mom is kind of in a bad situation where she's let herself be walked all over to preserve this dead woman's memory. And I think it's important, like, if you marry a widow or a widower, to let them have a place in their heart and life still
Mm-hmm.
for their deceased partner. But this has taken it to an excess, and it seems like he just wants her always front and center, and Opie's mom is always living in the shadow.
Mm-hmm. But what do the comments have to say?
So Susam says that sounds like that family all needs serious therapy. Tuesday says this is so sad. Opie's mom deserves more, but she's so beaten down she'll never believe she'll get a good relationship. Opie is not the jerk, but his mom is a victim of his dad and a family system that is against her. Susam says father is just ruining his relationship with OP and his future wife and grandchildren. Fiance will end up getting a brand new dress. Mary says, well, to start, that mom is an incredible woman. What a big heart. But onto the issue of the wedding dress, that is a bridge too far. Time for someone to rein good old dad in.
Mm-hmm.
And Tuesday said, I saw an update to this story before, and the mom has tried to get help before. It's other family that gets her to stop. Oof.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't seen that
I
update.
haven't seen that update either. But speaking of unreasonable demands, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for serving my roommate's girlfriend's leftovers at my dinner party without asking? Here's the situation. My roommate Dave has been dating this girl, Lisa, for a few months. Lisa is an amazing cook, and whenever she comes over, she whips up these incredible meals. The thing is, she always makes way too much food, and they leave a ton of leftovers in the fridge. Now, Dave never eats the leftovers. I'm not exaggerating when I say that in a few days, I have to go through the fridge and cleaning out all the old food Lisa leaves behind because it just sits there until it starts to go bad. A few weeks ago, I decided to throw a small dinner party for a few friends. I'm not much of a cook, so I was getting stressed about what to serve. I thought, why not ask Lisa to help out? She's always cooking at our place anyways, and I've always complimented her food. So I casually mentioned to Dave, asking if Lisa might be cool with cooking for my party. Dave seemed taken a bit aback, but he said he would ask her. The next day, he told me that Lisa wasn't comfortable with it because she doesn't want to feel like she's being taken advantage of. I was surprised, but I told him no problem. I would figure something else out. The night before the party, Lisa came over and starts making dinner for her and Dave as usual. I'm in the kitchen hanging out with them and mention that I'm still trying to figure out what to serve at my party the next day. Lisa doesn't say much but continues cooking. I notice that she's making a lot of food, way more than just for her and Dave. After finish eating, they leave the leftovers in the fridge. Given their history of these leftovers going uneaten and just taking up space until I have to clean them out, I get this idea. The next day, I take out the leftovers and I heat them up and I serve them at dinner at the dinner party with a bean dip that I made. My friends loved the food and kept complimenting me on how great it was. I just smiled and I thanked them without giving too many details. That night, Dave comes home, orders a pizza, and goes to bed without even checking the fridge. 2 days later, after Lisa has already come and cooked another dinner, he notices the leftovers are gone and asks me what happened to them. I tell them that I used them for my party. He gets super mad at me and says that I had no right to take the food that Lisa had made. And I argued that it was just leftovers, and since they never eat them, I figured that it was better than letting them go to waste. Now both Dave and Lisa are pretty mad at me, saying that it was a jerk move to steal her cooking for my party. And I think that they're overreacting because it was just food that was going to end up in the trash otherwise. So am I the jerk for serving my roommate's girlfriend's leftovers at my dinner party without asking? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, OP, if you're going to try and serve your roommate's food, you need to ask first. I understand the food waste might be frustrating, and that it's fine to have a conversation with your roommate about not liking the food waste. But then to go and pass it off as his own too is where I think it wasn't cool to take the food in the first place, but especially to just be like, oh yes, well thank you, yes, thank you, instead of correcting them, being like, oh actually my roommate's girlfriend made this.
Yeah, I think OP just didn't want to get in trouble and was trying to minimize the amount of
Well, but why
people.
why plan a dinner party if you're not prepared to cook for it?
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
could have had any other kind of party, where you maybe a movie party or something where you just have snacks on hand. But he decided to plan a dinner party. It's and then expect the roommate's girlfriend to cook for him. I don't like his attitude in general, where he just feels kind of entitled to her cooking because reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is. I understand the frustration with the food waste, right? And I don't like the food waste at all. I think that if they're wasting this much food all the time, that it's gross. And I can understand her being uncomfortable with that, but I also think that if they're going to have a ton of leftovers in the fridge, then, I personally would rather see those go to people in a dinner party, for instance, than getting thrown away,
Well,
right?
she may not even know. It's not clear if Dave even 'cause it seems like she gives Dave the leftovers to have food throughout the week, and if he's
Mm-hmm.
not eating them, maybe it's time to he sits down and lets her know that he's not eating this much food,
Yeah, yeah.
so that they don't create this much food waste. Because if he's not letting her know and she just assumes he's eating it all, that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good point. Like, maybe she thinks that he is eating all this food and it's just getting thrown out, and she would be maybe upset if she found out that, oh, yeah, by the way, all this work that you put into this food is going to waste, right?
Because I'm assuming she's making it so he'll have leftovers for the next days. But if he's just ordering pizza every day instead,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not cool.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's actually appreciating Lisa's food. So I can understand OP's feelings here of frustration, but they needed to figure out something else for the dinner party, and they needed not to steal food. I get why they did it, and would argue that I don't really care that much, but it's going to create friction in their friendship.
Well, and then his whole when she's overcooking food, hinting, "Oh, I still don't know what I'm gonna make for my dinner party."
I mean, this was
It
premeditated, if you
was.
ask me. He knew what he was going to do. He knew the whole time that he was going to go and steal the fridge leftovers. This was in his head. I have little doubt. He just was
He planned the
planning out.
entire dinner party,
Yeah,
assuming he would get Lisa's food one
yeah,
way or
yeah.
another.
But what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, first of all, OP throws a dinner party with no plans for what to serve.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. How much effort would it have taken to pick up a phone and ask Lisa for permission? Susum says, what is wrong with OP? Tuesday says, this is everyone's the jerk for me. OP sucks more for using food without permission. Lisa and
Oh, no. Keep going.
and Dave for wasting food.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Susum says, who makes a food party if you don't like cooking?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, I think that OP just knew all along what they were going to do,
Mhm.
and that's why they did this. They're like, we're just going to use Lisa's food no matter what. Speaking of unreasonable demands, I think this is our third unreasonable demands one. How many segues into the same segue am I going to use, right? Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Husband That We Can Get a New Babysitter If He Finds a Better One at the Same Price? My husband and I have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5. We've had the same babysitter, Amelia, 20, for almost 5 years. Amelia has filled a few different roles for us. She was our date night sitter. Then, during the pandemic, she was our nanny and went back to date nights. Now she gets to our house at 7:15 every morning, gets the kids out the door, drops them off at school or camp. Then, twice a week, she babysits at night so that we can run errands or get some time to ourselves. Amelia's sweet spot was 2022 to 2023. She had her car and license, had games and activities planned for everyone, was always on time and prepared, and was generally more available and focused. She is still good, but doesn't always come with crafts and activities. That can be done in 5 or 10 minutes late. Oh, she can be 5 to 10 minutes late, and more often than or not orders DoorDash for herself to the house. It's all manageable, and she still knows that our kids. Sorry, it's all manageable, and she still knows and loves our kids, and is very affordable. The final straw for my husband was when Amelia told us that she had recently been diagnosed with autism, and that she thinks that our 8-year-old should also get an assessment, as they are exactly alike. I would never have known Amelia is autistic, but I'm definitely willing to get an assessment. My husband saw it as rude and thinks that she shouldn't have brought it up unless we asked. He thinks that it's time to get a new sitter, so I told him that we can get a new sitter if he can find someone just as good as Amelia for the same rate as her. He says that we can afford better than Amelia, so we can spend more and get someone who will be focused on their work like Amelia used to be before she started college and got another job. I know that we can afford more, but I still want to stick with Amelia. Am I the jerk for telling my husband the only way that we will replace Amelia is if we find someone as good as her for the same price? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I don't think Opie's in the wrong here, and it seems like the husband is more upset than anything that it was suggested his kid might be autistic. And I don't remember the genders of the kids, but if the 8-year-old's a girl, like autistic signs in girls often look different than they do in boys, and so it can be really hard to catch. And I don't think that Amelia said this with any malice. It was more just like, oh, hey, your kid is just like me. Maybe you should get them evaluated.
Well, I mean, I think that it's would be said without malice in general,
Well,
because
yeah.
like, why would she be like, oh, your kid is just like me? This is horrible. You
Yeah, well,
know?
like the husband's painting it like this was some
Mhm.
horribly rude like thing to do, but it's just like, she's a caregiver for the children. It's like if the school were to say, "Oh, hey, I noticed signs of autism in your child. Can we get them evaluated?"
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and I mean, certainly, like, I think all that's really important, and that maybe it would be a good idea to get them evaluated, and even if they aren't entirely sure, because, like, Amelia suggesting it might be a good idea just to investigate it, right? But another point here is, like, OP's husband thinks that Amelia isn't doing a good job. Well, she's really cheap. Maybe pay her more. Maybe she'll do a better job,
I mean,
right?
that's a good point too. Is like she's juggling. Like it sounds like she has to have another job right now on top of the babysitting, and she's also doing schoolwork. So
Mm-hmm.
she's stretched thin. If she were paid more, she might be able to drop the other job and really focus on the kids.
Yeah. So I think that they really just need to start paying Amelia more, and maybe she'll be able to focus and pay more attention to the kids like they wanted before. And like that might make and ease the burden on her financially. So, but what do the comments have to say?
So Susam says, sounds like the husband feels ashamed the child might be autistic. Maybe he is, maybe not. But knowing that faster would save a lot of trouble for everyone. Well, and it really does. Like, because if a kid gets a diagnosis, then they're entitled to special accommodations in school that if you don't have access to those. And so,
Yeah. But speaking of special accommodations, our next letter is titled, My wife tricked me into cheating by pretending to be someone else, and now she wants a divorce. Well, what's Mary's comment real quick before we
ew,
do that?
hubby reeks. He suddenly regards Amelia as less or as afraid his son will be. How about making the welfare of his son the primary concern?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. I think that's a really good point. All right. So my wife tricked me into cheating by pretending to be someone else, and now she wants a divorce. Well, wife and I have been having problems. We recently had our second baby, and she let herself go. Rarely showers and has horrible personal hygiene. We've had a lot of fights. She nags me 24/7, saying that I don't take her on dates, we don't have time or money for them. I've been incredibly overworked with long hours, screams at me and insults me during arguments, accuses me of cheating. She says that I don't help with the house. Well, she doesn't either. Dishes pile up around the sink, clothes everywhere, trash isn't taken out, and dinner is rarely ready when I'm home up until we sold rarely when I'm home up until we sold our house. That was not a complete thought. Her excuse is that everything got ready. Her excuse is that she got everything ready for our house sale and moving. When you got to leave the house and go to work, you didn't appreciate me. No thanks from her for my late hours and the work related stress. I've had problems with adult entertainment for a while ago, and we were trying to get her pregnant. She didn't want me looking at it, and I did lie a few times. Then, after, like I said, her hygiene went out the door, which is why our intimate time was nearly non-extinct, or was nearly non-existent. She found my history and screamed at me, saying that I was cheating and couldn't believe that I would do this to her. Yes, I was watching things behind her back and doing stuff like that, but I never cheated on her. I'm not talking to taking I'm not talking to anyone, just using adult entertainment. Now she says that she can't trust me and that I am lying to her. I'm on a work trip now and I went for dinner with a few friends. We're in the middle of moving to another state. Wife is staying with my parents with kids until we close on our house. Met a hot waitress. I appreciated someone who actually takes care of herself, but I didn't do anything with her. Left her a good review and a nice tip. Later that night, I was talking to my wife when I got a text from the waitress wanting to hang out. It was refreshing talking to someone who isn't screaming at me constantly, so I took the bait and I invited her over to hook up. She was accusing me of cheating anyways, so why not? It turns out that it was my wife the entire time. I assumed the waitress had my number from the review. Wife called me hysterical and ranting. I believe this is entrapment. I've never talked or slept with anyone else. I didn't actually do anything either. Yes, the plan was for her to come over and engage in intimate activities, but again, the entire situation only existed because my wife was suspicious and conniving and set me up. I did not do anything and never have. My wife hasn't eaten in several days and cries nonstop or stares out the window, according to my dad, who supports me. He is on my side with this. He told her that I need to focus on work, and she says that my kids are more important right now, so I don't care. He says that he does see that I am his son and ended the conversation. No one supports her on this topic. She lied and set me up. She wants a divorce, but it would be the worst outcome for the children. My opinion is therapy. Oh, yeah, my opinion is therapy and more realistic expectations. Like maybe not demanding that I stop talking to my dad because he was rude to me when you destroyed our family, etc., etc. I am not going to cut off my family for anyone. Am I the jerk, or should she just admit that she lied and go into therapy with me? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, OP, you're a jerk here. He also mentions in the comments that he knows she has postpartum depression. He hasn't been doing anything to help her. He's expecting her to essentially pick herself up by her bootstraps. It sounds like she's having a really hard time mentally, that she's struggling looking after the kids, and that OP isn't doing things around the house.
Mm-hmm.
I understand OP's frustration, but it's not like she chose to have postpartum depression. It's just something that happens. It's a medical condition you have to deal with, and you need support from other people. And divorce may very well be the best option for her. I know OP doesn't want it because then he'd either have to pay child support or he'd have to actually step up with taking care of his kids.
Yeah.
But he just seems so selfish in this whole thing.
Yeah, I think that this isn't entrapment.
Well, yeah, it's not like a like government
Yeah,
agency
yeah.
set him up or anything.
I think that OP, you made a poor decision and you proved to your wife that you weren't faithful when you should have been faithful,
Well, and
right?
that's the thing is the only reason he hasn't cheated at this point is he hasn't had the opportunity,
Yeah.
and that's what she just proved.
Yeah.
And also if adult videos are a boundary in their relationship, then, you know, like, 'cause some people have different boundaries at what they consider cheating. If she sees that as cheating, then OP either needs to he needs to just divorce her and not just be like, no, it's not cheating because I say it's not cheating. You're allowed to have different opinions on that. But like, if that's cheating in her book, then you are cheating on her and you should go your separate ways.
Well, I mean, I think at that point in time she needed to engage in divorce, right?
Yeah.
And I think like it's perfectly reasonable for her to say that I don't want you to do this and that this is a deal breaker for me, right? And I think that she, can use that as a deal breaker and get out of a relationship, right? And as for OP saying this is a better situation or blah blah blah, right? Then I mean it's like
A better situation for who?
yeah.
Like, he's saying no one's on his wife's side. Does she have any support network at all? Or is it literally just her being harassed by him and his family for not getting her act together?
Yeah. And what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, wait, she didn't trick OP into cheating. OP was ready, willing, just not able. Yeah, OP needs to focus on work, not texts from the waitress. And Susum says OP needed to grow up before having a family. He isn't ready for this kind of responsibility. And if OP actually was talking about waitress going to his apartment, he is cheating.
All right, let's go into tea time real quick, and then we'll read our last letter here. Apparently, my phone isn't charging, so I'm actually might lose video. Oh no, here in a minute. So, I don't have any of these choices here, but all right, folks, it's tea time. Grab your beverages
I don't
of
have
choice.
I don't have my joke book. I gotta grab that.
I have some tea right here. I'll let you guess what kind of tea it is, but again, it is none of those choices that are listed there.
Let's talk about our poll.
Oh, and we also have our poll here. It looks like apple picking is the victorious one here with 43%. I'm going to end this poll here.
All right. And then, so we have, let's see. Tim, where did your mom go on vacation? Jim, Alaska. Tim, never mind. I'll ask her myself.
I thought that was going there. And folks, I have the chocolate tea again here. It's not apple picking, it's mushroom picking. Yeah, that's very popular with a lot of people, right? I mean, I think that the mushroom picking is something that people do enjoy doing. All right, and we'll jump into our last story here real quick here. You're drinking some decaf vanilla chai tea. That sounds very good. Oh, and Mary's going to add on the last one here. Maybe no one is on the wife's side because she doesn't scream this to all of her friends. I mean,
that could be, like, if she's not telling them what's happening and whatnot, and,
Yeah. It's a sad situation. I really feel like, I hope that she can actually get out of this relationship. I don't think either of them are terribly happy.
No, it seems like a bad relationship for everyone involved.
Yeah. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, I think that John Oliver paid off my medical debt, and it kills me that I'll never know for sure. It's been almost 10 years, and this still keeps me awake at night. In 2015, I was struggling big time with my mental health. I won't go into the details other than to say that one night, I decided that my life wasn't important, and I tried to end it. My amazing roommate at the time took me to urgent care, where my life was saved. From there, I was sent involuntarily to a behavioral health center. I was super young and vulnerable. I just turned 19 and had no idea how to navigate the healthcare system, and I didn't want my parents to know, so I was there on my own. The doctors and the police who sent me to the facility promised that it took my insurance. In hindsight, I should have checked at the facility, but I didn't know better. Eventually, I did tell my parents that I was released. I dropped out of college to heal with my family. And that was when my parents told me that the bill for both my ER visit and the facility had arrived. This was when I learned that either they didn't take my insurance, or it was covered very little of it. Because I was so fragile at the time, my parents didn't tell me any of the details other than it was a lot. Insurance wasn't covering it, and that they would handle it. I remember how stressed my mom got every time that another bill came in. Every time this happened, I think that it would have been better if I had just died that day. And then one day, my mom comes to me and tells me that the debt was gone, forgiven, entirely blown away. When I asked, she said someone had bought the debt and forgiven it. That was it. No more details. I think there's the name of the company that bought it, but I don't remember what it was now. You all, this blew my mind. It felt like someone had taken a horrible burden off of my shoulders and my family and had wiped it away. It was like I was given permission to keep living. Uh, like I had been given a fresh start. The timeline is a bit fuzzy, but a couple months or so later, I saw John Oliver air the story about medical debt on Last Week Tonight. And if you don't know, he essentially purchased and forgave $15 million of medical debt, and I wanted to cry. Obviously, I had no idea if it was him or some random stranger. Part of me wants to know because whoever did that gave me a fresh start. I got my first job, I went back to college, and now I'm married and just had my first kid. No matter who did it, I'm forever grateful. They literally changed my life. Edit, someone pointed out that he bought medical debt that was 7 years without payment. My mom was making payments and the debt wasn't that old, so it wasn't John. Honestly, this doesn't change my feelings on the matter, other than a bit nice of closure. Whoever paid my debt may have well saved my life a second time, and I'm forever grateful. All right, folks, what do you think of this story?
I mean, I'm glad that OP was able to get a new lease on life. It's
Yeah.
really uncool that our medical system is the way it is, where you can accrue that much debt just getting life-saving care. But I'm glad there are people out there who are willing to buy it up and dismiss it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this story is a bit of a bittersweet type of thing. On
Mm-hmm.
one hand, I'm really glad that OP is in a better place,
Mm-hmm.
that they've recovered and that they've managed to become a better, better equipped person, right? And that this isn't burdening them, and that they don't feel like they were better off dead that day, right? Like this is amazing, right? I'm glad this outcome is the best possible outcome that it could be for OP, and not everyone gets that outcome, right? And I'm sad that the medical debt will follow them around, and that there are people out there who don't get this lottery, so to speak, where they have their medical debt forgiven. There are charitable organizations that do exactly what John Oliver did, and you can actually give them money, and what they'll do is they'll go ahead and buy medical debt, and basically, pennies on the dollar essentially are able to forgive and wipe out massive amounts of medical debt. And I think that no one deserves to choose between living and or being basically burdened with debt
Or
forever,
you,
right?
yeah, you shouldn't have to like be saddled with this entire this massive debt just for continuing to live.
Yeah. I think that's a terrible shame. I really do. But what do the comments have to say here?
So Opie says, OMG, I suddenly have such a high regard for John Oliver. What a saint. Susum says, nice to hear stories like this, and it always makes me grateful that healthcare here is more affordable.
Yeah. And it's nice when I'm glad that it's affordable in other places. I really am. I think that that's great. And I really just hope that someday we can get to that place here in the US as well. But with that said, well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us today. Sorry that I stumbled a lot today with some of these stories. I guess I just wasn't all the way together. Yeah, Amber, do you have any morals today?
I mean, I guess I would just say treat other people the way you want to be treated.
I mean, I think that that's the kind of the golden rule, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated, and unless you're a masochist.
Well, yeah, I mean, just treat other people with care and respect, and
Yeah,
not as
yeah.
means to an end. That's where things go wrong.
Yeah. So I guess the advice from the very beginning here is like, if you want to end up in a Reddit story or don't want to end up in a Reddit story, then treat people with kindness and respect, right? But maybe you would end up in a Reddit story anyways, because some of these are just so unreasonable, right? But thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope your weekend goes well. I hope that you have like an amazing weekend, right? Oh, you're welcome, Mary. They are a lot of fun. I enjoy the live streams a lot here. I think that they're a nice way to kind of like cover a lot of stories that we never got a chance to cover throughout the month here. And yeah, it just we even now, like, I have so many leftover stories that it's just like hard to cover every single story that I think is worthwhile talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like I almost need to do 2 live streams in a month.
If only there was more time.
Yeah, if only there was more time, I would totally do 2 live streams in a month if I had more time, right?
Someone needs to lobby Brian's job to like just let him have time off to do live streams.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly like not unfortunately possible. But thanks so much for everyone for joining us. Again, like I hope you have a great August, and I hope your September is going to go well as well. But yeah, I guess we'll catch you all later.
Bye.
Bye, Susums. Bye, Mary. Bye, Tuesday. Let's see. Who else was on here? Bye, Army Soldier Lady. And who else was here? I think those are all the folks who commented. So we'll see you all later, folks. Take care.